The following presentation is a delayed broadcast by means of videotape.
Maybe that week I'll get some others. I'll have to have some pencils when they come the next time.
Okay, somebody else need a pencil?
Who needs a pencil?
I still have a couple right here in my box.
Donna needs one. There's a little tiny one. Well, here's the big one.
And John, do you have a pencil? Write down some ideas and then we'll share them and see how many different kinds of ideas we can come up with on how that could have been solved.
What could they have done to stop the
Yeah,
fight?
to stop the fight.
It's time to stop them? Did you Oh, you can stop it now. Thank you. It's just about time to do that.
And before he was playing for the Chargers, he was on the New Orleans Saints. So now that you know a little bit about the San Diego Chargers, watch them on NFL 81.
I'll be talking about a sport which will be probably pretty good for some of you guys because it doesn't take much energy to do. And it doesn't look like most of you guys have much energy. I'll be talking about archery, or bows and arrows. I'll be telling you a few types of bows and the parts of the bow and arrow, and the history of the bow, and the competition of bow and arrow. First, I'll tell you about the types of bows and arrows. There's a compound bow, which I couldn't bring today, but it has 2 or more pulleys on it to make the bowstring much easier to pull back. Like if you had a 30-pound bow, which is like that, it takes 30 pounds to pull it all the way back. But if that was a compound bow and it had pulleys on it, then it would take something like about 5 pounds to pull it back. It'd be real hard at first to pull back, but then you can pull it back real easy. And it's just a lot easier to pull back, and it makes your arrow go longer distance without pulling back and straining yourself. And then there's a long bow, which is this bow right here. It's a long bow. It's usually about 5 to 6 feet in height. And this is a 30-pound bow, and it's made of hickory. And there's a crossbow, and it's a bow laid on its side, and it has a handle on it, and the handle's somewhat like the stock of the gun. And the bowstring's released by a trigger, which is on the handle, and it's like a gun. You pull the trigger back, and the bowstring releases, and it shoots the arrow and goes wherever you sight the arrow to. And there's a short bow, and it's just the same thing as a long bow, except it's shorter. Now I'll tell you a few parts of the bow. This is the upper flank, this is the lower flank, this is an arrow rest, and I'll show you how to put a bowstring on. Might be hard on this floor, but you put your foot through the bowstring and push with your knee. And get this over the top. And I'll tell you to string a bow. And you shouldn't ever leave the bow strung like this because it warps the bow and it's a lot harder to pull back and it might get weaker too. I'll leave it like that just for a moment. This is an arrow, most of you know. The feathers on the back of the arrow are sewed to make the arrow go in a straight line and not go swerving all over the place. This notch in the back inserts into the string like this so you can pull back. This black feather here, you should always have the odd colored feather on the outside, because if you didn't and you had this on the inside, and when you shot, this would scrape against the side here, and it will ruin your arrow. So you should always have this on the outside. Then you pull back and aim like this and shoot. This is a hand thing. Well, it keeps your. I'll show you just a minute since I get it on. So that so keep your fingers on it, so your fingers won't get hurt when you pull back the bowstring. Like after you do this for a long period of time, and if you're in competition or something where you have to shoot about 90 arrows or something, your fingers start getting sore. So this helps them. Now I'll tell you about some of the history of the bow and arrow. The bow and arrow was used for hunting animals and for making war before the invention of gunpowder. And people back then used anything from a horn to a bone or a bent piece of wood. Then they attach a string to either side of it.
I'll tell you a little bit about water skiing. Well, first of all, it can be really fun if you really know how and stuff. I'm going to tell you later in my speech, I'm going to tell you about the different types of skis and different types of ropes and the jackets. Well, the purpose of skiing is to, get better at it. And, well, when you first start out, you should wear a life jacket and get the skis sized for you really, not really tight, but not so they'll fall off either. And when you're skiing, sometimes you never fall frontwards, you fall backwards, because if you fall frontwards, you could hit your skis real easily and then knock you out and then you're drowned. And now I'm going to tell you about the different types of skis. There's a tunnel ski, which you can use when you're trying to get a big spray when you're skiing. And then a rooster tail ski is when you drill a hole in the back of your ski, or you can buy one, and it makes a big old spray of water come out like this. It comes back like that. Looks like a rooster tail. That's why they call it a rooster tail ski. And you shouldn't wear these life preservers that you have in boats when you go on boat rides. You should use ski jackets that are made for skiing. And you also need a good driver for the boat and one that understands the hand signals. This means faster, this means slower, this means stop. And when you're tired of skiing, you point to your campsite or wherever you're at that you want to go in. You just point to it, and then if the driver understands what you mean, they'll go in. Well, that's about it.
Go. Okay. Finish it or carry.
Do you want to bang out live?
What has 4 legs, is white, and weighs 30.
Okay, my speech is on New Zealand. This is grade 11, which is their Form 5. You get your school credits. You get more credits than you normally do through your other grades. And at the 12th grade, or their 6th form, you can enter a university, and they give you certificates to enter that. And their 11th grade is their Form 7, which is called a bursary, and you get money. Then they pay you for going that long. And you start at 5 years of age, and they have uniforms. They've got pants that come up to here, and socks and little shirts and everything cute. And there's a lot of violence in those schools. I met a girl there who, she had just gone to the school, and some kids took knives after her, so they're really violent. And their scenery. Here's some pictures of their scenery. And they have a lot of mountains. And this one is of Fox Glacier we went to. And they have a lot of animals. They have about 500 sheep in the field, and then they've got thousands of sheep and more sheep and more sheep, and then some cows. And their state bird is a kiwi. This is a picture of their kiwi bird. And as far as I know, there's only there's a cave where you can see glowworms. And there's only 2 caves that I know of in the whole world, and they're both in New Zealand. And we went to see them, and here's a picture of them. It's really neat because you take a boat, and you go up this little stream type thing, and you go up, and you just see all these spots on the ceiling. It's really neat. Well, I told you about New Zealand schools and their scenery and their language, and I hope you know more about New Zealand than you did when I started. Can I see that? You can.
But you would not have any help from your teacher like you would in a 7th and 8th grade school, because in 7th and 8th they would help you play the notes like bass clef and 4/4 time, but in high school they wouldn't help you at all. And if you wanted to do something better in drumming, if you wanted to become successful, you would probably join a group called the Agronauts. And the Agronauts, they really teach you an awful lot of stuff. And you can learn a lot of different things. It's a lot easier on you than it would be a school band. Okay. Now I've told you about snare and types, the width, how you can go to schools, and the Agronauts. Now you should know something about drums.
Paper, which you can make your own dungeons. Here's a dungeon that I made, if I can find it. Okay, this is a dungeon that I made. Right here. And for about $7, you can go into hobby shops and you can buy your own dungeons. This is a dungeon right here, and this is a dungeon, and this is a dungeon. So, I'll pass these around. Okay, there's monsters in every dungeon. Okay, and you fight the monsters and you get experience points that gets you up level, so you get tougher. And you just fight tougher monsters. And some of the monsters are big, small, and every shape, size, and color. And some of the monsters' names are brain mole, brownie, black pudding, gray ooze, and green slime. Okay, I hope some of you people would be interested in the game. It's a really fun game, and I really enjoy it because it lets you use your imagination. And if some of you would be interested in playing, I wouldn't mind teaching you. That's about it.
We have just picked 2 people off the street to sample our new beer. In front of these people, they have 2 cups of beer, brand A and B. Would you please taste the beer now? And what did you think of this beer, sir?
B is better.
And what did you think of this beer?
I like brand A.
Well, I think that brand B wins our beer. We have just picked 2 people off. We had just picked 2 people off the street to sample our new beer. In front of these 2 people, they have brand A and brand B. Here's. Would you please taste the beer now? And what did you think of this beer, sir?
A was the worst. B is better.
And what did you think of this beer, you swine?
Under the circumstances, I like brand A.
guess I'm beating him up.